In a move that stunned even palace insiders, Princess Catherine secretly met with Princess Diana's former bodyguard, and what he revealed left her shaken. No cameras, no press, no royal protection. Just truth, behind closed doors. Ken Worf, the man who once shielded Diana from danger, shared chilling details about her final days and the threats she faced from within the palace itself. Sources say Catherine left that meeting transformed, whispering, "She was right about everything. Why now? Why him? And what will Catherine do next?" This meeting wasn't about history, it was about survival. And it may change the monarchy forever. The secret meeting that wasn't on the schedule. In the final weeks of 2024, just before Christmas, Princess Catherine slipped away from the royal radar. There were no photographers waiting, no formal press briefings, no security motorcade cutting through London traffic. The palace calendar listed her as resting at home. But that wasn't the full story. Instead, Catherine was seen entering a secluded countryside estate in Berkshire, alone except for one trusted assistant. No royal protection officers accompanied her. For a senior royal, this was unheard of, and that's exactly how she wanted it. The meeting had been arranged quietly, away from palace ears. The man waiting inside was Ken Worf, the former personal protection officer to Princess Diana. He served her faithfully from 1987 until 1993, guarding her through some of the most dangerous and unpredictable years of her life. To Diana, he wasn't just a bodyguard, he was a lifeline, a witness, a protector when no one else stepped forward. Sources close to the estate say Catherine requested total privacy. No staff, no reporters, no digital trail, just truth. One palace insider put it bluntly. She didn't want optics. She wanted answers. What exactly drove Catherine to such a covert meeting remains a tightly guarded matter. But whispers inside palace walls suggest this wasn't about nostalgia. It was about fear. Recent tensions with Queen Camilla had escalated behind the scenes, and the princess, surrounded by growing silence, began to feel a dangerous familiarity settling in. History, it seemed, was knocking again, and this time Catherine wanted to meet it head-on. Why Catherine sought Diana's protector. Royal observers have always admired Catherine for her poise, patience, and quiet diplomacy. But in recent months, something changed. Subtle at first. Cancelled appearances, nervous glances, a shift in tone during interviews. And now insiders say it was all building toward one chilling realization. She was beginning to feel what Diana once felt, alone, unguarded, and exposed. According to palace aides, Catherine had been privately revisiting old archives, newspaper clippings, transcripts, and even handwritten notes Diana once left behind. She wanted to understand how a beloved princess could fall so far, so fast, despite the public's love for her. The deeper Catherine looked, the darker the truth became. One name kept coming up: Ken Worf. Catherine reportedly reached out to him discreetly, through a friend of a friend, avoiding official channels. Her message was simple: I need to know what she knew and what she feared. Those close to Catherine say the moment she sat across from Worf, it wasn't just about seeking facts. It was about drawing lines, protecting herself, protecting her children, and perhaps most of all, protecting the legacy of the woman whose footsteps she was now quietly tracing. Worf, now older but still sharp, was reportedly surprised by her directness. There was no royal formality, no rehearsed words. She spoke as a woman with a rising storm at her back. And as the conversation deepened, Catherine began to realize she wasn't just looking at a protector of the past. She was hearing warnings about the present. What Ken Wharf revealed about Diana's final days. What Ken Wharf shared was not scripted. It was not softened. It was, as one source described it, raw, brutal, and honest. For nearly 2 hours, he spoke without interruption. And Catherine listened with the weight of someone hearing her future spelled out through the pain of the past. He started with what everyone already knew. Diana's post-divorce years were unstable. The press was relentless. The palace was cold. But then he pulled back the curtain on things only someone inside her security detail could have witnessed. Wharf described how Diana, once joyful and fearless, had grown increasingly paranoid. Not without reason. Her phone was often crackly, intercepted, she believed. Her schedule changed last minute without her approval. She was tailed, watched, blocked from seeing certain friends. There were subtle signs that someone, somewhere, wanted her, isolated. He told Catherine that Diana had begun to feel betrayed not just by the firm, but by the system itself. She trusted no one by the end, he reportedly said. She was surrounded, but never protected. But what hit Catherine hardest was what came next. She asked him plainly, what did she fear the most? And Ken, according to multiple sources, didn't hesitate. Silence, the moment no one answered her calls, the moment she realized no one was coming. He recounted nights where Diana would call his private line in a panic, unsure if she was being followed or set up. The worst part? He believed her, but by the time he'd left her service, the machinery had closed in. For Catherine, this wasn't just a story anymore. It was a warning, a mirror, a possibility too real to ignore. And suddenly, it wasn't Diana's death she feared most. It was her fate. Diana's warnings that still echo today as their conversation drew to a close, Ken Wharf handed Catherine something deeply personal. A collection of Diana's handwritten notes, preserved over the years, most never before seen publicly. Some were barely legible, scribbled in stress. Others were methodical, almost prophetic. One note read, "They want me gone." Another, "I will never be queen, but I may die like one." These weren't metaphors. They were fears made real. Written down during nights, Diana felt the walls closing in. Notes about tampered vehicles, missing calls, a slow, steady erasure. Wharf explained how Diana often suspected her car had been altered. He remembered the nights she refused to drive anywhere without checking it herself. And now, decades later, those suspicions no longer sounded paranoid, they sounded familiar. Catherine was reportedly visibly shaken. At one point, she held a note in her hands for several minutes, silently rereading it again and again. Later, she would tell one of her aides, "This changes everything I thought I knew." Because in those pages, Catherine didn't just find Diana's fear. She found the roots of a story that was never allowed to finish. One that may now fall into her hands. And as she left the estate, Diana's words followed her, like a whisper from the past, now begging to be heard again. The emotional impact on Catherine. When Catherine returned from the countryside estate that evening, she wasn't the same. Staff immediately noticed her silence. No small talk, no light laughter echoing down the halls of Adelaide Cottage. Just a woman moving through her home as if she were somewhere else entirely. Emotionally distant, spiritually shaken. For 2 days, Catherine withdrew completely. She canceled all private meetings, refused to attend her scheduled charity call. Even her usual school run with George, Charlotte, and Louis was quietly handed off to a trusted aide. When asked by a close friend if everything was all right, she gave a soft smile and simply said, "I just need time." But insiders say her conversations behind closed doors were anything but calm. William was the first to notice. According to one Kensington Palace staffer, he gently confronted her. "What happened out there?" Her answer came after a long pause. 4 chilling words. She was right about everything. That was all he needed to hear. Catherine began requesting new briefings from her personal security detail, not through palace channels, but directly. She wanted to know who was assigned, how often they rotated, and what vehicles were in use. These were not the actions of a paranoid woman. These were the actions of someone who had seen the blueprint of royal neglect and vowed not to be its next victim. She also ordered old press files to be sent to her private office. Clippings from the 90s, security reports, even a few declassified memos she somehow secured. It became clear. Catherine wasn't just mourning Diana's truth. She was preparing for what came next. One close royal aide reportedly said, "She looked like a woman who finally understood the price of silence and decided she'd never pay it." And in that moment, for many inside the palace, Catherine stopped being a future queen. She became something more dangerous. Informed. How the palace reacted to the leaked encounter. News of the secret meeting wasn't meant to leave that estate. But within a week, whispers began to spread, and they spread fast. A royal staffer overheard a late-night phone call. A driver mentioned something odd about security schedules. A journalist caught wind of Catherine's sudden silence. Then came the call from a Sunday tabloid. A simple question. Did Princess Catherine meet privately with Diana's former bodyguard? The palace went into immediate containment mode. Press officers were given strict instructions. Deny nothing. Confirm nothing. Say nothing. Nothing. But that silence only fueled suspicion. Behind the scenes, royal aides scrambled to discredit Ken Wharf. Stories from his past resurfaced, especially the release of his controversial tell-all book after Diana's death. Some questioned his motives. Others pushed the narrative that his memory couldn't be fully trusted. But the damage was done. The public didn't care about protocols or outdated memoirs. They cared that Catherine had gone outside the palace to seek truth. And that truth, apparently, scared people. Queen Camilla, according to one insider, was livid. She reportedly slammed a briefing folder down during a private meeting and snapped, "She's dredging up the past to rewrite the present." It wasn't just frustration, it was fear. Fear that the long-buried cracks in the monarchy's image were now being traced one by a woman too intelligent and too respected to be dismissed. Inside Clarence House, whispers grew. Some feared Catherine had become another Diana. But others warned, no, she's becoming something more calculated. She's not speaking yet, but she's watching everything. Public support surges for Catherine. Once the story leaked, the public response was immediate and emotional. Hashtags like #LikeDiana and Truth for Catherine began trending within hours. Royal reporters, even those known for towing the palace line, began cautiously applauding her move. One commentator put it best. She didn't go rogue. She went real. Polls taken within days showed an unprecedented surge in public support. Catherine's approval rating soared past 80%, higher than any other royal since Diana herself. Even anti-monarchist voices found themselves unexpectedly praising her courage. Young people, especially, connected with the story. On TikTok, thousands of videos emerged comparing footage of Diana's last interviews to Catherine's recent speeches, drawing eerie parallels in tone, expression, and body language. Some called it haunting. Others called it a warning. At charity events, crowds now greeted Catherine not just with applause, but with knowing nods. There was a new respect in the air, not for her title, but for her spine. Meanwhile, the palace held the line. No confirmations, no denials. But sources say the firm was stunned by how quickly public sympathy shifted. This wasn't just a media cycle. It was a movement. For the first time in years, Catherine wasn't just seen as William's wife or the future queen. She was seen as a woman walking Diana's path, only stronger, wiser, and far more prepared. The message was clear. The people still remember Diana, and they're watching what happens to Catherine now very, very closely. The legacy Catherine now carries. Those closest to Catherine say the meeting with Ken Worf changed something fundamental in her. She didn't emerge broken. She didn't collapse. She transformed. No longer just a royal consort in waiting, she's now become a quiet investigator. A woman asking difficult questions behind palace doors. A figure whose every move is now watched, not just by the public, but by the institution that surrounds her. William, it seems, is standing firmly beside her. According to sources, he told one of his oldest friends, "I'll stand with her. Whatever she uncovers, I won't let her stand alone." That single sentence has rattled royal insiders, because it means Catherine is not just looking into the past, she's preparing to act on what she finds. Ken Worf, reflecting on their meeting weeks later, told a close friend, "She didn't come to honor Diana. She came to finish what Diana started." And perhaps that's the legacy now being written, not in official records or staged photographs, but in truth, in courage, in confrontation. The palace may not know what's coming next, but Catherine does. And in the silence of Diana's last warnings, a new voice is rising, one that the monarchy can no longer ignore. Whispers are growing, murmurs of a possible public statement, a documentary, a quiet reckoning. Because the crown may sit on tradition, but truth lives in the women who wear it. Catherine didn't just seek answers, she found a mission. As whispers of Diana's past rise again, one thing is clear. The Princess of Wales is done staying silent. What she does next could shake the crown. Like, share, and subscribe, because the truth Diana carried may now live on through Catherine.